Let's start with yes and. I think that's one that a lot of people are familiar with that phrase and they throw that around a lot, but I don't know if they always know exactly what that means. What is yes and mean in the improv world?
Well, yes, and is where we start, and it is a mindset. And I often tell people that yes, and I can get into kind of like the nitty gritty of what I think that that expansive term involves. But yes, and is a mindset. We walk into rehearsal, we need to click into yes, and because when outside of the rehearsal in the real world, in our personal lives and our like work lives and all of these different like arenas, oftentimes we are in a no mode. Like, oh, we're in judgment. Sometimes it's referred to as judgment. Oh, we're judging. Is that right? Is that wrong? The world is telling me no. The government's telling me no. Oftentimes I'm telling me no. Like everything I'm doing, I'm judging myself. And people can be pretty harsh on themselves and everything is no, nothing is possible. That is just like one, the awareness of like that is what the world is. The world is in a no mode. And so in order to do this art form, we have to start to like click into yes. And that's a mindset and it's also a muscle that has to be developed. Like it could be like it's hard to stay in yes mode. But if you are, then so what does it mean to be in the yes mode? Which means like you're actually listening and that's huge, because living in the no mode, you're really not listening to what's coming in because like it's already a no. It's this or it's that. Or like, oh, you're saying no to a person, you're saying no to engagement, you're being dismissive, or you're just moving
Mhm.
on, or you're nervous. It could be from like a high status or a low status. You're just like not listening. But in the yes mode, it's really truly how can I listen to the whole
Mm.
sentence, the whole stage picture, the whole everything, and not judge it, listen to it, accept it, not thinking about my next line, not thinking about what I should do or what we should be talking about, just acceptance.
Okay.
And that also blends into being fully present, which again, most people, do I have your full attention? No. At best, you're getting somebody's like 50% of their attention, and if you're like close to them and it's like slowed down and there's no distractions, you might be giving somebody 80% of your attention. You're being 80% present. And it's like another muscle that must be trained. And so in improv classrooms, we do mind exercises, warm ups, and then the scene work is really training that muscle so that you can be fully present, fully listening, fully accepting for longer and longer sustained amount of time.
I love you said so many things in there that I want to unpack there, but I think first of all just the mindset is so important because it really is a shift, and we have to embrace that, like that mindset of being willing to uh approach a situation from a place of wanting to really listen and being present. And I think the listening piece is so critical to that.
Mhm.
And I think the misnomer, I think, in the real world is people think that if I embrace yes and that I'm going to accept, that means I have to agree with everything. And that's actually not the truth. It just means that I'm agreeing to be present with you and that I'm going to try to understand what you're saying. It doesn't mean that I'm going to agree with it. It doesn't mean that I'm going to avoid conflict. It just means that I'm willing to work towards a common goal, whether
Yep.
that's like we have team agreements to collaborate or to finish this project. But I'm just going to try to understand what you're saying. And then I'm going to share my perspective. And there's sort of that and piece. And then I'm going to share something. So, what
Mhm.
we're really listening for is the intention behind what somebody's saying. The gifts. There's something in yes and about listening for the gifts. I'm wondering if you could say something about like what are the gifts people are giving or what you're listening for in that yes and process.
Well, I'm gonna kinda like back up to like what you're just so it's like yes and in like the workplace, yes and theatrically like improv stage. And so like there's some things, and I think the and is included in the theatrical space where it's like, yes, and you're building a story, you're being theatrical, you're saying yes to invention and honoring like ideas and make believe scenarios. And that kind of theater stuff can stay there on stage, but then the principle goes into many different arenas. And so, like, yes, and the and part of creating and adding and collaborating, although it exists in like these other worlds, I would say it's more theatrical in nature, but then like in the corporate sense or like in conversation or in relationship, like outside of the stage, like the and I think is less important. But it's like I'm listening, I'm present. What did you just say? But the and could be like actually processing a solution or actually like a full agreement or like, the and is it's not just a one-sided thing,
Mm,
it's a collaboration, I would say,
mm,
in just like agreement, disagreement, or solution, or negotiation, like the and is that. And then if it's in the fully present, non-judgmental yes mode with the and, a disagreement can be pretty healthy.
mhm. Yeah, yeah. So that what your yes and is, I'm hearing what you're saying, that I'm acknowledging that whether I agree with it or not, but I've just heard and reflected back what you've said. For example, I hear that that you want to get feedback from our clients or our students or our customers before we move on. I've just reflected that back. I've yesed you. I have not agreed or disagreed to that. And then I'm moving, I'm adding something to that,
Yeah.
and
The
then
and could be like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Let's set up a Tuesday Zoom, and well, no, I actually don't think that's gonna, like, streamline the project, and let's keep everything between us. I'll take that idea, and then I'll talk to the client, like, the "and" is your contribution, so I would say, like, in relationships, in corporate life, in conversation, like, using "yes, and" as a principle is, like, your response. So the "yes" is, "I'm fully listening and fully present, I'm not just gonna shut you down." I'm like, "Can I absorb the whole picture? Can I absorb the whole idea wholeheartedly?" Great. Processed it, I yesed it, and then now "and" is, my contribution, which is like, "Yes, that's cool."
yeah. So, sort of in summary, then the yes and is a mindset of showing up to be really present and to truly listen to what somebody's saying and listen for the intention behind what somebody is sharing, whether you agree or disagree, and that you are listening so that you can find some solutions, some common grounds, and then to add something to that conversation so you can move it forward. And that what you're trying to do is find a place where everyone can feel understood and you can move forward even if you're working through conflict, but it's a healthy mindset and it's a muscle that you're developing to improve interpersonal skills and relationships in the workplace.
Agreed. So another way I might put it is that, like, on the stage, if I have a performer who comes in and they're not yes-anding, and they have an idea, and this is where this scene's gonna go, and this is what's funny, and I've already got this like pre-planned thing. I'm gonna be an astronaut. And if they go in there and they don't listen to their scene partner, then their scene partner is forcing, if they're a good improviser, to just listen and just go along with this person who's railroading.
Yeah.
And that's like a one-way street. And a lot of times I'll stop that performer and I say, okay, you had this idea, you're an astronaut. That's great. You were not listening to any of the offers that your scene partner gave you. And this scene, like, sometimes it's really good. A lot of times it's not. And so you're going to get more laughs and you're going to have more power on stage and look like what you want, your idea, your ego, this whole thing that you want. Um, you'll actually achieve it if you do what I say, like harder and faster and better. But that breaking down of the ego is also part of like opening up to yes. Cause ego is also like, no, I have the idea. I'm right. I'm the surgeon. You're nobody, like, and so, like, that's also kind of breaking it down, or if there's like those performers, those hot shots where it's like they think that like their idea is going to get them to the heights. But actually, if they listen and they collaborate, they have so much more power, so many more options. And it might be their idea, but if they really open to it, boom, they can take
Mm,
off. And so if you take that to the corporate world where it's like a boss or somebody working on a project and they're like, no, I have the idea. This is it, then like it's a one-way street, and it's actually, if it's a two-way communication collaboration, like we're both in the yes mode, it's also easy to drop ego and just to be like, oh, actually your idea is a better idea. Let's go with that. It's easier to just drop your idea, which is another principle of improv of like, I can create, but I can discard and discard. I'm not attached to it. And like the four agreements is another thing. It's like nothing's personal. I'm not taking my ideas personal.
I love that. I love that because I think sometimes when we yes, but or we just absolutely deny and just say no, my idea is the best, or we're not moving forward. I'm unwilling to listen. It's either it could be just we're busy, we have lots of context, we know why something won't work. We just we don't want to go down that road. But I think sometimes we're doing that out of either, like you said, ego or fear to let go of our idea, an unwillingness, or we just don't know how to listen well. And, but when we do open up to that yes and let go of it needs to be this solution rather than let's together find a solution. It's amazing how creative and innovative we can be when we're just release the solution and bring everyone together to find something that maybe we wouldn't have thought of if we just worked on this independently. And something really a beautiful scene, a beautiful solution from that.